Hi, my name is Glenn Hasselman. I'm just making this video for the users of free accounting software, primarily to show you guys how to process JobKeeper in free accounting software, or actually process single touch payroll in a way that lets the ATO know that you're entitled to JobKeeper. I also want to show you how to work online, or some tools in the software for how to work online in this environment of being locked down. At Free Accounting Software, we started our lockdown a little bit earlier than many businesses, so we know a thing or two about how to do it. You know, we started our lockdown in 2009, so a bit earlier than most. But we haven't seen a client face to face in over 10 years, so in fact we have, but not for the purpose of doing the tax. But yeah, so show you that. But first, I want to go over some news and tell you a bit about some things. So we started this business way back in 2004. Okay, and we've always had the business model of being a free software with paid accounting services, and the accounting services fund the business. Okay, we don't get funding from the ATO, and I think some people mistakenly think that. And look, during this time, this 16 years, there's been a massive increase in the number of users. The diversity of users is quite large, from tiny micro businesses through to businesses with over 100 employees. We also have professional users like tax agents and BAS agents. Also in this time, the complexity of the software has increased quite dramatically. So things like single touch payroll, it's a fairly complex lodgement, and also security requirements have become more important, although it's always been important. And the ATO has released an operational framework around that. So with all those things considered, and also the fact that the software is free, I decided about 3 years ago to launch a desktop version of the software, and it took some time for that to be ready. So now we've got a desktop version of the software which is intended to be free and easy to use and simple for micro businesses, and we've got a cloud software which actually is accessed through the desktop software as well, which has more features, stores the data online, and is for the large businesses, although all of our businesses are actually small by government standards. Now, we've been overwhelmed by support calls and emails, and a couple of weeks ago I've had to turn the phones off. We just can't keep up with the inbound phone support, and a lot of software doesn't actually provide that kind of support anyway, so it's unrealistic to think that us providing a free software will have time to do those things. So we've got to improve the way we provide support, and there will be more videos. We've always done a lot of videos. With the new software, there's probably been a few gaps in that, but I'm going to do a lot more videos so that people can, so that all of the features are covered. The other thing I want to do is work with other tax agents and BAS agents. You know, we've been really busy providing taxation services, and although that's kind of our business model, we've been maxed out in the amount of tax and BAS agent services we can provide for years now. So I will show you some things we've got now. We've got to find a tax agent or find a BAS agent feature in the software. Recently I've seen some feedback online, or some reviews or something, and it's kind of a bit disappointing. Um, Basically, you know, in fact, I'll just read a couple of these maybe. It says, used to be easy to use until needed to migrate to Bassoff, then was a disaster. Look, it's not a disaster, and I'll demonstrate the software, and you can see that it works perfectly fine. It's disappointing because this is a user who's used our previous version of the software for 5 years. Okay, they're actually saying it's easy to use, so they've actually been getting really good value out of this software for 5 years. But they haven't been posting, glowing reviews for 5 years, and then they didn't want to move to Bassoff, so they want to post some negative review here. Well, I think it's a bit unfair and quite disappointing because we've actually given them a great service for 5 years. It should be a positive review that they have got to use our software for free for 5 years. So, look, if you don't like where I'm taking the business with the new versions of the software, that's okay. You don't have to like it. Just go and use another software. Okay. If you do like what I'm doing, give me a positive review. So I also want to say that 2020 has been a difficult year. Okay. With things like the fires, the storms, COVID-19. We haven't really been directly affected by any of that, but it's an inconvenience. But what we have been affected more so by is the rollout of single touch payroll, and that's been an immense amount of work. The launching of our new product, FAS3 Desktop, has been a huge amount of work. Okay, and there's been a lot of queries and emails and support. We've worked incredibly hard to support people in changing over and implementing single touch payroll and changing from our old software to our new software. So it's doubly disappointing to see people who we've supported or provided this software to for 5 years, the first time we have a difficult year, go and put the boot in when they haven't been saying anything. And I want to make another point here. When we provide the software to you, it is us who is helping you. Now that's surely obvious to most people. However, that actually wasn't obvious to this user. They thought, because they are a loyal customer, that I should do more to help them or train them in the use of Bassoff. It's like saying, because you have helped me in the past, you need to keep helping me and go further to help me more. Well, no, I don't, because I am not your slave. Okay? Now, I get it. People don't like change, and if you don't like what I'm doing, just don't use the software. And so here I'd like, if people have not read this quote from Theodore Roosevelt, this is called the Man in the Arena quote, I think. Pause the video here and have a read of this. And Brene Brown actually has a quote that sort of follows on from that and says, she says, if you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. Now, I do appreciate if people put positive comments online, because it helps us get the word out, and it's good for me to see encouraging comments. Okay, this is different from telling me how to run my business. Okay, and so with all this in mind, I'm going to break it down for people. Haters, F off. So I hope it's pretty clear. Okay, now we've probably cleared out the haters, we can get on with discussing this excellent software. Okay, so my purpose here in this demonstration is not to cover off whether or not you're entitled to JobKeeper, but just to show you how to process single touch payroll so that you can receive JobKeeper. But there is, I think, 3 things you need to do. One is you need to register with the ATO for JobKeeper. The second is you need to process your single touch payroll in a way that shows the ATO you're entitled to it. And then third, at the end of the month, you need to do a declaration of your turnover being down by 30%. Okay, now this is really all very new, and I will put some updates on the website and links to the ATO as well, because likely I might say something that's going to change. So I've set up this organization, but I haven't set up the tax. I'm going to show you how to set up the tax codes and accounts that you need to do this. So the first thing to do is set up the tax code and click New Tax Code. Now JobKeeper runs for 6 months, okay, and this tax code purpose is to tell the ATO which fortnight this JobKeeper became entitled to start receiving JobKeeper. So I'm going to put JobKeeper start fortnight 01, because I think that mostly it will be an entitlement that starts from 01, given that they're ongoing employees. However, that could change, and you might need to put 02. Again, I'm not covering the rules of JobKeeper, I'm just showing you how to process it. The other thing here is we're going to use this description. This description actually gets sent to the ATO with single touch payroll, and I'll show you on the pay event where that is sent. It's important to get the exact right text. If you spell it wrong or something, it will delay your receiving of this JobKeeper. So what we want to do is type it all in capitals: JobKeeper dash start dash FN01. Okay, now if your JobKeeper, oh look at that, done a typo, don't make a typo. So check that you've got that exact right spelling. The other thing to note there is if you're putting dashes in and you're copying it from a document that's got formatting, you've got to be careful, because dashes can be automatically changed by formatting to be long dashes. I don't know how the ATO would deal with receiving that, but anyway, just type it, and just be careful about typing it exactly right. So now I was going to say, if your JobKeeper starts on fortnight 2, you you'll put 0, 2 and 3 and so on, and I will put some something on the web page to show you what the fortnights are. So active is true, classification liability, it doesn't really matter that much. BAS classification is just put not applicable. We're only going to put a $0 figure against this allowance or this tax code because the only purpose of doing this is to relay this description to the ATO. Now, payment summary type, I'm still using the word payment summary, although the payment summaries have been replaced by single touch payroll. It's individual non-business, and the gross classification is individual non-business employment allowances other. We've got an other underscore taxable as well. It doesn't matter because it's a $0 figure on here. And the tax classification is just not applicable. So save that. Now we need an account as well. So click back on your business name and then click on accounts and new account. And the account links to the tax code and enables you to select it on the payslip. So we go to call this job. Oh, so I've got the caps lock on. JobKeeper from fortnight 01. Expense, active true, apply super false, apply leave false. This is just a 0 that goes against this thing, so job start fortnight 01 and payment deduction time. On the pay slip, the accounts are filtered based on the payment deduction type, so the earnings section of the pay slip is where we're going to put this. So select payment deduction type of earnings. You don't need a rate or a normal rate multiplier, and then hit save. Okay, now let's go and enter a payslip. So going to the batches, new batch. Okay, now the JobKeeper period is 6 months and it's split into 13 fortnights. In fact, what I'll do here is I'll enter just a normal payslip before the JobKeeper period start date, because these are ongoing employees for you, so they would have previous payslips. So I'll just quickly enter that. So I'm gonna do this as a weekly pay cycle. So the first payday being the 24th of March is before the JobKeeper period. If I accidentally say job seeker, I mean JobKeeper. Okay, so I'll just quickly make a payslip. The employee I've set up is just called the employee. So first name the, second name employee. But you'd obviously put the real name. So I'm just putting in 38 hours, and that's a total of 760. Okay, now that's just to get some year-to-date figures in there. If I scroll down to the pay event info, you can see the year-to-date figures, and it's only just one payslip that I've entered, so that's going to be our year-to-date. You'd probably have a higher figure than that with an employee that's been there for some time. Okay, so now let's set up a new batch for the first pay within the JobKeeper period. So this pay goes from the 23rd of March to the 29th of March, and payday is the 31st of March. Okay, now I just want to point out that this period, 23rd to 29th, is the period that the employee worked. but the payday is the 31st. So the first job seeker fortnight runs from the 30th of March through to the 12th of April. Okay, 30th of March through to the 12th of April. So although the worked dates are before the JobKeeper period, the payday is within the JobKeeper period. So it goes by payday, okay? And that's something you've got to be keeping in mind. So the week ending 29. Okay, go to transactions and new payslip. Okay, select the employee. Normal time, 38 hours. Okay, so that is normally what you would do, and you scroll down and see that it's totaling up your year to date. But what we want to do is now add that tax code, which just flags to the ATO JobKeeper Start Fortnight 01. And that's done by clicking Add Line, and we select the account JobKeeper from Fortnight 01. That brings in this tax code here, JobKeeper Start Fortnight 01, and just put a 0 in the amount. Now if we scroll down to the pay event info, which is the section that goes to the ATO, you can see there is an allowance type other, and allowance description JobKeeper-Start-FN01. Allowance amount is 0. So this might seem a little bit unusual to be using an allowance just to flag to the ATO that the JobKeeper starts from Fortnight 01. However, in Single Touch Payroll, this particular field here was actually the only free text available. So normally these systems for lodging are developed over a period of years. In this case, everyone's sort of working very hard to do it in under a month. So that text is the text that was already available, and so that's what is being used. So then hit save, and you would go and lodge that in the normal way. Okay, now if you were going to, in fact I'll just get on with doing the next payslip. So batch list, new batch. Okay, so the next pay period is the one that runs from the 30th of March through to the 5th of April, and payday is on the 7th of April. So we're going to say week ending 5 April 2020. Go to transactions, click new payslip, select our employee, normal time 38. Okay, so this employee is getting 760 gross per week, which makes 1,520 for the fortnight, which is great because they're above the $1,500, and that means that you've paid them the minimum and you're entitled to the JobKeeper. So if that's the case and you're paying above the $1,500, this is all you need to do. Now, I'll just point out that the allowance here, which says JobKeeper-Start FN01, reappears. And that's because this Single Touch Payroll lodges the year to date. So this JobKeeper Start Fortnight 01 is going to continue to be lodged. And that's okay. when you get to July, because it's a new financial year, that will drop off, and that's okay. It only needs to be reported once through to the ATO, and they've once that's happened, they've picked it up. Okay, so I'll save that, but I'll come back and modify this payslip. In fact, let's say we paid the employee only 30 hours, so they're not up to the $1,500. We need to top this up so that they get to the 1,500, and that's because that's required for receiving JobKeeper. So that means they've been paid $1,360. They need to top up of $140, and I'll just show you how to do that. So save. We're going to set up a separate tax code and account to pay that $140. Clicking on the business name, then on tax codes and new tax code. I'm calling this JobKeeper top up. Again, the description is key here because this is going in the other type, but we need to actually state exactly what it is. And all in capitals, JobKeeper dash top up. Okay. Active true. I always put classification liability on that one. Doesn't really matter. Okay, now BAS classification, you need to put salaries and wages, and the reason is because this is taxable. JobKeeper is taxable. Okay. Payment summary type is individual non-business. Gross classification, we're going to put individual non-business employment allowances other underscore taxable. This option is brand new. I just added it the other day, and the reason I did is because all these allowances you normally don't withhold from them because you pay the employee what you expect them to expend, and they would be entitled to a deduction, meaning that you don't have to withhold from those allowances. In this case, we've got to use the allowances other box because that's the one that's got the ability for us to put this description, except we've also got to tax it. So I've just added this classification here. And then that's not applicable. Then save. Okay, so we need to then put up an account to pick up this JobKeeper top up. So just call it JobKeeper. Oh, still got the caps on again. Classification reference is expense. Active is true. Apply super is false. Okay. Now you're normally getting super, or you get super on ordinary time earnings. That's where you worked ordinary time to get the earnings. This top up is for not working. It's just it's for time that wasn't actually worked. So you don't get super on top of that. Apply leave is false for similar reasons, and we just need to pick up or point this to the tax code JobKeeper top up. Payment deduction type is earnings. Okay, so again, so it appears in the right spot on that payslip. So now let's go back and fix up that payslip to add the top up. Okay, so back to the payslip, click add line and select JobKeeper top up and put the $140 top up. And let's scroll down to see how this looks in the pay event. So in the pay event info, we've got that original allowance that's always going to be there for the rest of the year. And then we've got an allowance of other allowance description, JobKeeper dash top up, all in capitals, an allowance of amount of $140. Okay, cool. So that's exactly how we want it. So save that, and then you would go and lodge that in the normal way. Now, I want to point out as well that there is another tax code, although I won't demo this one, but this is called JobKeeper Finish Fortnight. So this this one is to signal to the ATO that the JobKeeper is no longer entitled to the JobKeeper allowance. And that can happen because of workers' compensation, absence, cessation of employment, or change of citizenship, and maybe other reasons as well. I'll put that in the description on the web page, but I won't go and demonstrate it. The setup is exactly the same as JobKeeper Start. Process it and add it to the payslip the same way, except instead of putting Start, you put Finish. Okay. All right. So that completes the processing of the JobKeeper using single touch payroll. I now want to show you or give you a bit of a demo of the way you can work with other people online using free accounting software. So to verify your identity, you click on your name, edit FAS identity, and then this link here, verify identity. Okay. Now, there's instructions on this page of how to do it. And you have to fill in these details, save your details. When you save your details, you get presented with this link, and you go to that website to complete the verification. But follow the instructions, because you also need to install Australia Post Digital ID app on your phone. Okay, and then most people will end up having to go down to the post office to complete the verification. If you have a recent passport and you're using Android, it can actually be done all on the phone. But yeah, most people end up at the post office. So once you've verified your identity, or even before you verified your identity, you can start using the software to message other users. So for example, if I go to this messaging page, we can type a message in, and this is really useful if you are a tax agent and a client trying to work together. So an example might be a tax agent who wants to get an electronic sign off on a tax return from the client. So the tax agent might say, "Hi, client, please review attached tax return and sign." Okay. Then you can add a file, put the status of client action required. Now, you might also want them to electronically sign the tax return so that you can go and lodge it. And in that case, you might put a declaration in here. I declare that the information provided is true and correct. I authorize tax agent to lodge. I authorize my tax agent to send the information in these tax returns to the commissioner. Okay, having done that, you put your password in and click save and sign message. This tick box here, auto send when message saved, it would automatically send this file, including any attachments and messages, to the people on this message recipient list. So click save and sign message. Okay, and then message appears here. Now note this pink warning here which says signature valid but identity not verified. So that's because I'm just logged in as a test user here, and I haven't verified the identity on this user account. You should get a green writing that says signature valid, identity verified when your identity is verified. Okay, so I'm just trying to demonstrate the mechanics of how this works a bit here. Now, when your client gets the message, they'll see the same as what you see here, which is they get the message, they get any attached files, and they get the declaration. Okay, they get an option here. If you put a declaration, they get an option here to add their signature, and they can review the document and sign the declaration. Okay. Now, when they sign the declaration, they can, do that, and then they can send a message back to say, "I've signed the declaration. Please lodge," and whatever. When you get that, then you can, check that you've got green as signature valid, identity verified, and then, you can go and lodge the tax return. So there is another video on identity verification which goes a bit into the usage of the digital ID app and the process for that as well. So I've just with this video I wanted to give you a quick overview of the messaging within the software, as well as refer to that one because I think it's particularly useful. And even not being in lockdown, but particularly with this COVID-19 lockdown that we're all in, you need these tools, and free accounting software provides exactly what you need, because you need identity verification, you need electronic signatures, and the other thing you need is actually to communicate with people online is encrypted files, right? Because you can't just send stuff by email. Email is not encrypted, and free accounting software encrypts the files. So it gives you the tools that you need to work online with your clients. So I hope this video has been useful to you, and thanks for watching.